We finally got to hear Mike Elko's thoughts on Texas at SEC Media Days.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms do apply. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few conversations to have. Most importantly, a conversation about what just happened at SEC Media Days with Coach Elko. And first and foremost, I think Coach Elko did a great job. I think he did a good job speaking in front of the media. I think he sounded great. I think he said some great things. I think he made some great points. Yesterday on the show, we kind of broke down what can we expect Coach Elko to say? What is he going to talk about? What's he going to be questioned on? And I think he handled everything well. I think he talked about how people are sleeping on the Aggies and watch out for this team. And I really liked everything he had to say. But I think the most fun comment, and we're going to run through pretty much everything Coach Elko had to say on today's episode, but the most fun comment, and it's been one of the more fun topics of the offseason, has been the bringing back the matchup between the Aggies and the Longhorns. So here is Coach Elko's quote at SEC Media Days on the matchup with Texas. He says, "That is something we take very seriously. It means an awful lot to our fan base and program. The history of that rivalry and the tradition. I grew up a football fan. I remember watching it on Thanksgiving with Slocum and that defense." So, I just think that's such a cool quote because it shows that you don't have to grow up in a rivalry. Coach Elko obviously didn't grow up in this. You don't have to grow up in this rivalry or any rivalry to understand how special it is. Coach Elko is now a part of it. Obviously, he's been at Texas A&M before. He understands Texas A&M's tradition and the proud tradition of this university and all of that. But he didn't know about, he hasn't been a part of this football game. And now you're going to see that happen. You're going to see Coach Elko have an opportunity to take the Aggies into battle against the Longhorns, bringing back one of the best matchups in all college football that we haven't seen in a long time. But I think it's great to see that he is taking it very seriously. Listen, you cannot lose this game to Texas. You just can't. And is Texas the better football game this year? Let's own it. Yes, they are. Texas is the better football team this year. But they got to come to Kyle Field. It's going to be a great matchup between two great teams, two teams that really don't care for one another. And that is what makes the game of college football, which we all love. And once again, if you're listening to a podcast talking about Texas A&M football in mid-July, you love football. And this is just the reality. We're going to see this matchup come back, and it's great for college football. So it was good to hear Coach Elko's thoughts on this. And it's good to hear that, we talked about this yesterday with Coach Sarkisian. A lot of his players didn't grow up knowing this or paying any kind of attention to this. The players, I talked about a little bit yesterday, how I'm 23 years old. Yesterday, I'm 23 years old. And yesterday when I broke this down, I said, I grew up not football. You really take it in when you're 12, 13. It's when you really start to be angry when your team loses and all that. And so people my age, which means all of these players, didn't grow up understanding this rivalry. So the coaches and the fan bases need to help these players understand what this means. So I'm excited about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really excited about it. I know y'all are too. And it's great to hear that Coach Elko is talking about how serious his team is taking this football game. Another interesting quote here. So this is an interesting quote. We're going to get into this here in a minute in segment 3. But Coach Elko on Terry Bussey, he says, "Terry was a huge get for us. He's a tremendous athlete. We think he's a really bright present. He has a really bright present and future. He still has not had an official Texas A&M football practice. I think he will start on defense, but everyone is aware of the flexibility he has to help us in a lot of ways. That conversation leads to the wide receiver conversation, which we're going to discuss in segment 3. So I'm not going to get super deep into that right now, but a really interesting quote, which we will revisit here in a little bit. Coach Elko then went on to talk about the recruiting against Texas and Oklahoma. And he says, there have been recruiting wars between those 3 schools since long before I was born. Those 2 brands hold a lot of weight in this state. And it's true. These 3 programs, Texas A&M, Texas, and Oklahoma, are going to be recruiting some of the best players in Texas and some of the surrounding states. Just the reality of the makeup of this area of the United States. And, I think you really are going to see these teams battle out for, it's never going to end. These teams are always going to be battling for elite talent. That is not going to change anytime soon. So it will be interesting to see, hey, how does this work out? Who ends up winning these recruiting battles for years to come? And I think you're going to see the Aggies win some, the Longhorns win some, and the Sooners win some. So that'll be another interesting thing to pay attention to. And then this is another quote about the Texas rivalry. He says, from Coach Elko, he says, it would be hard to equate something that happened in South Brunswick, New Jersey to this rivalry, which is hilarious. Now that we're playing and in the same conference again, and that's something that means a lot to our people and it means a lot to our program. So just continuing on the topic of Coach Elko, he grew up watching it, but it's not something he's been a part of, here in it. But I just think you're going to see a lot of people really buy in and people learn about this that don't know about it. So I'm excited about it. Here's a quote, a little sidetrack, a little quote from Terry York on the offensive line. Terry York says, Armaj Reed-Adams lights a fire under all those guys. Chase Basantis has come into his own. Mark Naboo has gotten a lot better. It's a testament to everyone involved in the offense. They have gotten much better this spring. And this is funny because this is one of those things I don't want to sit here and say, well, because Terry York says our offensive line is going to be great, it's going to be great. You have to take that with a grain of salt because, wow, I do believe this says positive things. I don't think at the end of the day you can read too much into it just because what do you expect him to go up there and say? Like, well, our offensive line kind of stinks. We're in trouble. He's not going to say that. He's always going to talk positively about his teammates. But it's still good to hear him bring up some names of some certain players. And some players in Mark Naboo, Chase Basantis, and Armaj Reed-Adams, who we think are, all 3 of them potential starters and huge role players on this offensive line. And we talked about it yesterday. The trajectory of this offensive line is going to make or break this season. And you just hate, and I say this all the time, it's offensive line is what I played in high school. You hate to put something all on one group of players, but that's just the flat out reality here. You have to put it all on the offensive line. Not all of it. There's still got to be some great receiver play and running back play. And of course, Connor Wigman has to play well. But at the end of the day, you have to, if the offensive line can't give Connor Wigman time, it doesn't matter how good Connor Wigman is or how good the receivers are. If the offensive line can't create holes for the running backs, it doesn't matter how good the running backs are. Nothing good will come if the offense can't create. If the offensive line can't create space and protect Connor Wigman. So it pretty much 95% of this is going to come down to the offensive line and how good the offensive line ends up being. Hate saying it, it's reality. Any listeners here, everydayers here, Locked On Aggies that play an offensive line, y'all get it. You get where I'm coming from. But it's the sad reality of playing offensive line. If you're great, no one cares. If you're awful, everyone cares. So part of the reality there. But it's going to be interesting. It's good to hear teammates talking positively about this offensive line. But at the end of the day, we have got to see this offensive line be good. If it's good, Texas A&M seriously can overachieve. If it's bad, I think that's when your chance of hitting your ceiling or exceeding your ceiling are, go out the window. So that is my thoughts on the offensive line. We got a lot more quotes, some stuff about Connor Wigman, some stuff about all different types of stuff that we're going to talk about coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. I'm back from Spain, as y'all know from yesterday's show. And you know, the only reason I was excited to come home from Spain, besides recording the show for y'all, it was to talk about Game Time. I walked around the streets of Spain telling everybody, hey, go check out Game Time. The Game Time app is the best app, the only app you should ever be purchasing tickets. It's the only app I will ever purchase tickets to anything the rest of my life. I love the Game Time app. I tell people about it all the time. I promise you've got to check it out. Last minute tickets, best prices. I love that. I love how you can see where you're going to be sitting via the app. I love that as well. There's just so many great features in the app. You have got to go check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, sticking with this topic of some of these quotes, so Terry North talked about the offensive line. And then, I want to talk about this quote from Coach Elko when it comes to assistant coaches. He says, when you're an assistant coach, you think you know everything it takes to be a head coach, but until you go and sit in that chair, you have no idea. I'm extremely thankful to all the people at Duke. Being in that chair is the only way to prepare to be in that. Being in that chair is the only way to prepare to being in that chair. He's talking about going from Duke to A&M. And now coming back to this conference that got only stronger this year. That experience is something to lean on. And what he's getting at is like he needed that experience as the head coach at Duke to be ready to be the head coach at Texas A&M. If he wasn't the head coach at Duke, I think it would have been really hard for Coach Elko to be able to take that step and be a head coach in the SEC, the best conference in college football. So I think that he wouldn't be able to do this without that experience he had at Duke. So I think he's grateful for that. And I think he should be, because I think he's right. He wouldn't have been able to do that without that experience. Then this is Coach Elko talking about what he's most excited about in his return to Texas A&M. He says, the biggest thing is being able to come out of the tunnel on game day. I spent all of my time in the press box, so I never got to experience Kyle Field from field level. I'm excited to lead our team down the tunnel for the first time against Notre Dame and hear Aggie land erupt. And that's going to be so cool. I mean, there's nothing anyone and I keep saying anyone's played football, whether it's Friday Night Lights at the college level, running down the tunnel and hearing the fans yell is one of the more cool experiences. And you can't find a better place to do that than at Kyle Field. So, yes, Coach Elko was in the box, which is boring. You don't get to hear all of it, see all of it. So I think he's going to really enjoy being able to run down that tunnel against Notre Dame, and it's going to be a cool experience for him, and he deserves it. We're so happy and proud for Coach Elko. What he did is the DC at Texas A&M, moving on to Duke, now moving back as the head coach at Texas A&M. Good for him. This is a really cool moment for him to really say, hey, I've arrived. I am the head football coach at Texas A&M. This is Coach Elko's quote on playing Notre Dame. He says, the benefit of having that game in the opener is you have everyone's attention. I think that has created urgency in our program going all the way back to January. It's going to be a level playing field for both of us, and we'll go out there and put our best foot forward. I've talked about it. I think Notre Dame's a great football team. I do think that every year they're always a little bit overrated. That's just the reality. I do think you could say the same about Texas A&M and what we've seen recently, although I do believe this year Texas A&M is a little bit underrated. But looking at this team, I'm sitting here and I'm telling y'all, I think they can beat Notre Dame when the season opens. I think Notre Dame is a great team, but I think when you look at this and you say they have to come to Kyle Field, it's going to be hard to know what this Texas A&M team is all about. There's a lot of new faces, a new coaching staff, new pieces coming together. There's not going to be a lot of great film you can look at if you're Notre Dame. So, I'm really excited for that football game and to see how this team shows up. And I'll tell you one thing, if Texas A&M doesn't win, They're going to fight in that game, and they're going to keep it close. It's going to be a great game, and I still have this feeling the Aggies are going to take home a huge win in that one, but we're just going to have to see how that plays out. Coach Elko had this to say about kind of how it was a quieter offseason. He said, you earn the right to have success in the game of football. That's what the offseason is all about. I don't know if I intentionally changed our thought process as Texas A&M. That's just how I believe programs should be. When it's not football, when it's not football time, we should be working. And it's a great point. I think that a quiet offseason is a great way to describe what's happened at Texas A&M, because it's a lot of people, when people ask me about Texas A&M, when friends that are fans of other programs, whatever it is, ask me about Texas A&M, I always tell them, like, you're not going to hear a lot of people talk about them, but watch out. Look at the schedule. Look at what they're going to be able to do. And I've told people, I love having that conversation, kind of like similar to one we had with Zach Blackery the other day on when we crossed over with Locked On Auburn. I was like, Zach, look at this schedule and tell me how there's not a role Texas A&M wins 9 games. And so you tell people Texas A&M has a chance to win 9 games, and they go, okay, you're funny, real funny. But then you look at the schedule and you go, oh wow, they really have a chance to win 9 games. So I just think this quiet offseason is going to turn into a quiet 9-3 for the Aggies, where people look at the end of the season and they go, man, the Aggies are 8 or would that be 8-3? No, that'd be 8-3. Yeah, the Aggies are 8-3 heading into the Texas game with a chance to either go 9-3 or 8-4. Like, I think that's going to be the reality of how this works out. So I do think it's going to be very interesting. Here's Coach Elko talking about Connor Wigman. He says he just needs to stay focused on the day-to-day of becoming a great quarterback. Obviously, he was playing at a high level through 6 games. It's his 3rd year of college football, but he's only played 6 games, and it's true. And there was the true freshman year. Then there was the getting banged up last year against Auburn. But I just think the staff believes in what Connor Wigman can do. I think they believe in the upside, and I think you'd be crazy not to when looking at it. So this is funny. Now here is so I've got 2 more quotes for you. This is Coach Elko talking about the 12-team playoff. He says, spending 4 years in this conference, there were a lot of years where I thought there were more teams deserving of being in the playoffs. This conference has clearly established itself as being the premier conference, and now what you have is more access. He's right. A 12-team playoff gives more SEC teams, and yes, other conferences too, Big Ten, whatever, ACC, more teams chance to put more teams in the playoff. And I think you're going to see the SEC be the team that takes advantage of that the most. And I think Coach Elko is spot on with this quote. Now, here's a fun quote. Here is Coach Elko on playing his former quarterback, Riley Leonard, this year when the Aggies take on Notre Dame. He said, Riley is a phenomenal quarterback. The idea of playing him in the opener certainly isn't lost on me. It will be a healthy competition. I have so much respect for him and his family. And it's true. Coach Elko loves Riley Leonard. I remember watching an interview last year where Coach Elko was talking about Riley Leonard when he was, Coach Elko was still at Duke and Riley Leonard was his quarterback. And it was just really cool. He loves him, and it's going to be fun. It's kind of like I always liked playing baseball, and you go to pitch against your buddy, and I'd be pitching. You got a buddy at the plate, and you're trying not to laugh. It's almost going to be like that. It's like Coach Elko needs to win this game and wants to win this game, but he's playing against an old friend and a family who he loves and respects. So that's going to be interesting. And then the last quote here, it's Shamar Turner talking about Coach Elko. He says, Elko harps on being hardworking and building relationships with your teammates. It has made everyone work harder for each other. I love this. I've talked about how Coach Elko is going to and already is building his program the right way. And, I think that stuff really matters. I think you have to build a program the right way. And that means accountability. That means a strong connection between teammates and coaches and respect and love. And I think Coach Elko is building that, and hearing from his players, I think just further proved that point. So those are my takeaways from the Aggies taking the stage today at SEC Media Days. Proud of the players who represented the school. Proud of Coach Elko for going up there and doing a great job. And really excited. SEC Media Days to me really means, hey, football's almost here. I know y'all are excited, and so am I. Now we're going to talk a little bit about What is the deal with Terry Bussey, and is he going to play a little bit of receiver? We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So, Alan Schmidt in the comments raised a great question while I was in Spain. So I wanted to I didn't miss your comment. I just, was out of town. I wanted to talk about this. And he basically asked, with my and everyone's concerns with the wide receiver depth, could Terry Bussey be a legit weapon and a legit help at that position? And despite the quote that we just got from Coach Elko today, I still think the answer is yes. Because like we said, the coaching staff still hasn't seen what he can do on the field when it comes to practice and when it comes to all that. So I think that when they get him on the field, when they get Terry Bussey on the field and they use him on defense and they use him on special teams, and then they say, all right, Terry, let's run a few offensive plays with you, right? When they do that, I think you're going to quickly see this coaching staff go, man, we might struggle to keep this kid off the field on offense. And I've said, I still do believe his NFL upside is at the cornerback position. But, it's one of those things where you just never know. You get him on campus and you might just never know. So we got to see what he's going to do. And we do have depth concerns at wide receiver. Jabri Barber down with the injury, and you've got a lot you got to figure out at that position. You still got a lot of high upside guys when it comes to Moose and it comes to Noah Thomas and it comes to Ja'Day Walker, but it's still a question of who's going to be the guy. Can somebody step up and be the guy? And then that's the question in that room. And then the depth question. And I think Terry Bussey can be a legit answer to that depth question. I think he can help you. If you were to see someone go down with injury, if you were to see someone get banged up, I think Terry Bussey can help this team at the wide receiver position. So I'm anxious to see what ends up happening there. Does he play a role? Does he play some serious snaps? Right now, I would lean no. But I do think if depth becomes an issue, if you start to lose 2 to 3 receivers, yeah, I think you could see Terry Bussey work his way on the field as a receiver. He's an incredible athlete, one of the best. He'll be one of the best athletes in college football. And I think it's going to be hard to not let him be a Travis Hunter type of player. So I think there's a world where you see Terry Bussey on the field playing receiver. But if not, it's one of those we'll just have to see. I think we'll know more when they get him on the field and let him do his thing. That's when we'll find out. Maybe it's either we don't want him on the field as a receiver, or, hey, this kid is too talented. We just can't keep him off the football field. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Really, really appreciate y'all. And that's also going to do it for this week here at Locked On Aggies. Hope everybody has an absolutely outstanding weekend. Great to be back with y'all home from Spain, back in the States. Great to be back. Monday, back to normal Monday through Friday shows. Thanks for bearing with me while I was out of town. Really appreciate y'all. We're also about 30 subscribers away from hitting 2,000. So if you could hit that subscribe button for me, it helps the show a ton. I really, really appreciate y'all. Everybody have an outstanding rest of your Friday, and we will see you next time right here on Locked On Aggies.